At exactly 5:17 local time, the USS Gravely's forward mount came alive with a sudden heavy shudder. Steel shifted beneath the crew's boots as the Caribbean churned around the destroyer. For one brief second, sailors stopped where they stood. Then the ship's tactical network lit up with a sharp order. Condition 3, set and man all key stations. No one needed the situation explained. 3 unidentified surface contacts were moving in fast from the southwest. Their speed was climbing and their formation was tightening in a way no one on board could ignore. On the tactical display, the contacts appeared as Sierra 1, 2, and 3. Their reported flag of origin, Venezuela. On the bridge, the captain remained calm. He did not raise his voice because he did not have to. His orders moved through the ship with quiet authority. Compartments came alive. Safety checks were completed. Crews took their positions. Deep inside the Combat Information Center, the tracking team watched the contacts close in at nearly 28 knots, bearing 243, still converging. The Gravely's 5-inch mount turned only a few degrees, a small movement with a very clear message. No rounds were launched, none were needed. Visual confirmation was still limited. The contacts were low profile, likely fast patrol craft. They carried no major heavy signatures, only speed, confidence, and a course that spoke for itself. Whoever was at the controls knew exactly how close they could get without stepping over the final line. The destroyer's electronic systems came fully online, spreading across the electromagnetic spectrum. Every signal, every ping, every small emission was captured and recorded. The crew had seen tense approaches before, but not with Caracas this frustrated, and not this close to the edge of international waters. This time, the instruction was not simply to wait. This time, the mission was to be seen. The operations officer leaned over the surface tracking display. Contacts were now inside 12 nautical miles and still closing. Recommend we classify their behavior as elevated intent pending identification, he reported. Copy, the captain replied. Maintain course. Systems ready. Do not engage unless ordered. Down along the main deck corridor, sailors moved with practiced precision. Load crews checked the feed systems. The close-in defense system spun up under radar guidance, its high-pitched mechanical whine carrying through the steel bulkheads. Every major system was now awake. This was the kind of fast approach scenario crews trained for many times. But training usually ended with a debrief and a laugh. Training did not come with national flags attached. A new report cut across the tactical network. Bridge, CIC, contacts accelerating to 29 knots. Understood, the watch officer answered. Mark closest point of approach at 4.6 nautical miles. Plot intercept vectors. The helmsman kept his focus locked on the destroyer's heading. The Gravely was holding position in international waters with less than 3 miles of margin. One wrong adjustment, one accidental drift, and the situation could be framed very differently by people far from the bridge. Binoculars swept across the horizon. The bearing was clear. The Venezuelan boats were driving toward the Gravely's beam. To military observers, that kind of move says something without a single word. We see you, and we are not moving aside. The captain reached for the intercom, his voice steady. Engineering, maintain full power on the turbines. We may need room to maneuver. This was no longer a routine drill. The USS Gravely was not in these waters by coincidence. For the past 2 months, U.S. destroyers and Coast Guard cutters had been operating across the southern Caribbean under Operation Sentinel South. Officially, it was a maritime security mission focused on disrupting illegal trafficking routes connected to Venezuelan waters. In reality, it also carried a clear message from Washington. The region was being watched closely. Only 4 days earlier, U.S. Navy helicopters had stopped 2 high-speed boats suspected of moving restricted cargo toward Curaçao. One vessel was disabled after repeated warnings were ignored. Caracas described the incident as a serious provocation. The Pentagon called it maritime law enforcement. Now, Venezuela's Navy was pushing back, testing the thin space between defense and escalation. The USS Gravely, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, is one of the most capable surface ships in the world. At 155 meters long, its Spy-1D radar can track more than 100 targets at once, while its Aegis combat system connects the ship with US, an allied aircraft operating overhead. That level of power is exactly what makes close encounters like this so dangerous. A single misread movement can turn a tense moment into something far larger. The Venezuelan patrol craft, likely from the Guay class, were fast and lightly equipped. They were built for speed, pressure, and close shadowing. They were not built to overpower a destroyer. But that was never the point. They are not meant to win a direct confrontation. They are meant to create the conditions for one. Inside U.S. Southern Command, situations like this fall into the gray zone, where pressure is applied without officially crossing into open conflict. Some call it controlled friction. It sounds calculated, almost clinical, until the moment control starts to slip. For the sailors aboard the Gravely, the politics are far away. The immediate danger is much closer, now less than 10 nautical miles from the ship. Every critical system is active. On the foredeck, the 5-inch Mark 45 mount waits in standby, its long barrel angled toward the southwest. It is capable of reaching targets more than 13 nautical miles away with remarkable precision, but for now, it remains silent. Behind it, the Mark 15 Phalanx Close-In Defense System, better known to sailors as CIWS, begins to spin up. Its 6-barrel system is designed to protect the ship in the final moments of a close-range threat. The crew has a nickname for it, Angry Steel, and right now it is waiting for one wrong move to give it a reason to speak. Inside the Combat Information Center, the Aegis system is doing what it was built to do. It gathers every piece of information from radar, sonar, and electronic sensors, then turns it into one clear digital picture. Everyone in the room sees the same unsettling reality: the bearing, the shrinking distance, the direct approach, and the rising speed. The ship's electronic warfare suite, the SLQ-32V3, stays quiet and listens. It searches for the one signal no one wants to detect: the pulse of a targeting radar. That would mean the encounter had shifted from pressure to immediate danger. So far, the spectrum is clear, but the crew knows silence does not always mean safety. Above the destroyer, another key asset is being prepared. The MH-60R Seahawk, known across the Navy as Romeo, is the ship's airborne scout and early warning platform. It can track surface craft, monitor submarines, and, in this moment, provide the one thing the bridge needs most: clear visual confirmation. On the flight deck, the crew receives the order to prepare for launch. Rotor blades unfold. Tie-down chains come off. Every movement is smooth and rehearsed, practiced countless times before. Still, no one mistakes this for routine. The entire ship is now one command away from a much more serious posture. At 5:19, the Seahawk rises from the deck, its twin engines cutting through the morning haze. Its call sign is Razor 21. The instructions are clear: observe, confirm, and do not escalate. As the helicopter banks south, its sensor pod locks onto the 3 Venezuelan patrol craft below. From above, the crew can finally identify their profile: small hulls, high speed, loose V formation. Their wakes slice across the Caribbean in bright white lines as their engines push close to maximum power. Razor 21 reports back to the destroyer. Gravely, visual confirmation on 3 hulls. Formation steady, speed 28 knots. The sensor operator shifts the MX-20 turret into thermal mode. Bright shapes appear inside the cabins. 3 figures at the controls, 2 positioned midship, 1 aft. All of them appear focused on the destroyer. The Gravely holds course. Its SPY-1D radar continues tracking the patrol boats with extreme precision. But the crew avoids the one action that could change everything. They do not lock on. In naval terms, that step would send a very different message. It would move the encounter from controlled defense into open challenge. And that is exactly the line everyone is trying not to cross. Instead, Romeo widened its circle, sending a quiet message of its own. The U.S. Navy was watching from every angle. For the moment, it remained a standoff, but the space between both sides was shrinking with every passing minute. By 5:22, the distance had closed to just 5 nautical miles. That was close enough for the Venezuelan crews to make out the Gravely's hull number against the steel, and close enough for every sailor aboard the destroyer to feel the pressure settle over the ship. The bridge made the first official move. Venezuelan naval vessels. This is a United States warship operating in international waters. You are closing at high speed. Alter course immediately. Nothing came back. The silence stretched for several long seconds. Then the CIC watch officer gave the update. Lead vessel still accelerating. 29 knots. Range now 4.8 nautical miles. The captain's voice stayed calm. Set visible posture. I want all topside systems clearly seen. No targeting radars active. On deck, the Phalanx turrets shifted just enough for their barrels to catch the early morning light. The 5-inch gun held its position. From the perspective of the Venezuelan crews, the message was now impossible to miss. We see you. Do not force the next step. The silence after the Gravely's broadcast felt heavier than before. Then, at last, a reply broke through the radio. The voice was tense, the accent unmistakable. This is Venezuelan Navy Patrol. You are operating close to our territorial waters. Identify your mission. The bridge answered without hesitation. Venezuelan naval vessels. This is USS Gravely. We are operating legally in international waters. Maintain safe separation. What happened next mattered. The Venezuelan boats reduced speed, dropping from 28 knots to around 20. But they did not turn away. Instead, they kept their formation and settled onto the destroyer's starboard beam, shadowing it at a sharply uncomfortable distance of 3.6 nautical miles. It was a careful dance, deliberate and controlled, but far too close to the edge. Every sailor aboard the Gravely understood the rule no one needed to say out loud. Some moments are easier to begin than to explain afterward. That is why the rules of engagement are built into every commander's thinking. Under U.S. Navy procedure, a ship can only respond with decisive force if there is a clear hostile action or unmistakable hostile intent. A fast approach alone is not enough. Even certain electronic signals may not be enough unless they are matched with clear signs of an immediate threat. So the Gravely held steady. Her cameras recorded everything. Her radar followed every movement with extreme precision. Her defensive systems remained ready, but her launch cells stayed closed. In that moment, restraint became the most important tool on board. That is the strange logic of deterrence. Sometimes strength is shown not by acting first, but by proving you do not need to. What made the situation even more delicate was the geography. The destroyer was operating 14 nautical miles off the Venezuelan coast, a position the United States considered international waters. Venezuela, however, points to its own Bolivarian security zone, a broader claim that Washington does not recognize. That disagreement over where authority begins and ends is exactly why these shadowing maneuvers happen so often. Each side sees the same water differently. And in that narrow space between legal claims and military presence, controlled friction is born. Legally, the Gravely was in the clear. But for the crew, the legal argument was not what mattered in that moment. Their only focus was making sure the situation did not become the story everyone would be talking about the next morning. One wrong decision, one misunderstood radar return, one nervous reaction, and a controlled patrol could turn into a full international crisis in less than 10 seconds. Then, at 5:34, the pressure finally began to ease. The Venezuelan patrol boats started a slow turn to the east. There was no final message over the radio, no polite acknowledgement, no official sign-off. They simply changed course and moved away. It was the kind of quiet withdrawal that said everything without saying a word. They had made their point. The USS Gravely stayed on course and held its speed. On the outside, the ship looked calm and unchanged. Inside, every second of the encounter was being documented. Radar tracks, radio calls, system status, engine output, defensive posture, even the readiness condition of the forward gun mount. Nothing was left out. Every detail was collected, reviewed, and sent up the chain to U.S. Southern Command. Above the ship, Razor 21 remained in the air a little longer. The Seahawk circled one final time, its sensors watching the Venezuelan craft as they regrouped and moved parallel to the coastline at a reduced speed. Only after confirming the contact was opening distance did the helicopter begin its return to the destroyer's deck. Far away in Washington, analysts would later study the encounter frame by frame. Was it a test of the Gravely's reaction time? Was it a political message from Caracas? Or was it a calculated show of frustration after several recent U.S. maritime security operations had put pressure on Venezuelan forces? For the sailors aboard the Gravely, those questions could wait. Their job had been immediate and simple. Hold the line, follow the rules, and prevent a tense moment from becoming something far bigger. They had done exactly that. This was not a random mistake. It was not a direct strike. It was something more calculated, a warning delivered through movement instead of rounds. In the Caribbean, patrol boats do not simply appear on a U.S. destroyer's beam by accident. Every course change matters. Every burst of speed sends a message. Every response and every decision not to respond shapes what happens next. The confrontation was over, but the larger game was not. Because every commander operating in those waters understands the real lesson. The next time similar contacts appear on radar, they may not turn away at 3.6 nautical miles. Maybe next time they move closer, maybe next time someone misreads the signal, maybe next time the controlled pressure becomes something louder. The Gravely's message, however, had been just as clear. With Aegis watching, its sensors locked on the full picture, and its visible systems standing ready, the destroyer did not need to make a dramatic move. Its presence alone said enough. We see you. Do not make us prove it. And that brings the question to you. If you had been in command of the USS Gravely that morning, with 3 fast contacts moving toward your beam, political pressure on one side and strict rules of engagement on the other, what would you have done? Would you have stayed calm and held position, or would you have taken a stronger visible posture? Share your answer in the comments. I want to know where you stand on this one. And if you want to support the channel more directly, you can join the fleet. Members get loyalty badges, priority replies, and help us bring more real maritime stories to the surface. Just head back to the channel page and hit join.